Everybody, this is Seth from Coming Out Tarot. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you haven't been here before, welcome. I'm not doing readings today, but I'm here to talk about how accurate are my predictions. Do we even do predictions? Should all tarot have predictions? So we're talking about predictions. This is a topic that came up in the 10 Get to Know Your Reader questions that I have over on comingouttarot.com. It's a part of my About page. If you go in to learn more about me, you'll see a link to the 10 Get to Know Your Reader questions. And this is one of those questions that I think a lot of people don't think about. They just assume the tarot is about predictions. And it's not always about predictions. Hey, Deanna. Tarot is about a lot of things, and it really depends on the reader and the person who's getting the reading who determine what tarot is about. Because the question can influence what it's about. The the style of the reader can influence what it's about. The way the client wants to interact with the reader can influence what it's about. There's so many different ways we can think about what tarot is and what it's about. And so that's why I want to talk about the prediction side of things, because if you're new to tarot, and if you are new to me, follow me so we can keep track of each other. I'm also on YouTube. So if you're watching me on YouTube, please subscribe so we can keep track of each other, and give me a thumbs up if you like this. And I always appreciate hearts from folks on Periscope. So the predictive side of thing, I think, is taken for granted. I think a lot of new people to tarot assume that there's a predictive nature to it. For example, I had someone reach out to me today and ask me if I was a reader, and I told them yes. And what kind of reader are you looking for? Because I don't think a lot of readers ask the people who come to them what kind of reader they're looking for, so that we can find out if we're meant to work well together. So I asked her this question because I don't know. I've never had a tarot reading before. And a lot of my friends have had them, and they said that I should really get one. And I'm interested in having one. So I said, great. Well, uh, let me share a few things with you that were important to me when I was looking for a reader, and maybe it'll help you find the best reader for you, because I don't know if we're meant to work together. So I think it's a great question for anybody that you're thinking about working with. I wonder about the scouts, the people whipping through one card free readings, not always accurate. True, or maybe they are accurate, and they're accurate for another time, just not for right now. Or maybe they're learning, and they're going off of a book meeting that they learned, and they haven't stepped into that space of seeing through the card, not just the meaning that they memorized, and seeing something further than just that card, which takes a some people get that right away, and some people need some time. So yeah, accuracy, I think, depends on, hey home, on experience and skill and style. How do you like to read, and what does accuracy mean to the person who's receiving the message? Because accuracy, I'm getting off on a whole nother topic. Accuracy can be different depending on who's receiving the message. You know what I mean? Like someone might feel that if I said, well, I can tell you feel really sad about this, that's accurate, about this situation, that's accurate. But if I said, I can tell you feel really sad about what appears to be the passing of your grandmother, that's a different kind of accuracy. And so someone may appreciate the accuracy of acknowledging feeling versus the accuracy of acknowledging why that feeling exists. And to take it even further, I like to share what you might consider doing now that you know that feeling exists and why it's there. So if I can acknowledge for you that you're sad because your grandmother is passing, then the next thing I'm going to do is, well, if you don't want to stay in the state, here's what you can do next. Or it may be an advantage for you to stay in the state in order to work through your grief, right? That kind of next step. So that to say that I think that the conversation around prediction is assumption. So, do I feel like I'm accurate in my prediction? First, I don't consider myself a predictive reader. I think there are readers who are predictive, but I think I have elements of that in the work that I do. So some readers are very much predictive readers. Sit down with me and I'm going to tell you what's coming in the next 3 months, 6 months, year down the road. And I have spreads that allow for that kind of interpretation to exist. For example, the year ahead spread that I have right now that is on for people on my mailing list, there's a special going on for those people. If they book now between now and November, you get the early bird before it gets busy and I don't have a chance to book ahead of time, and those are all at full price. So there's that type of reading that lends itself to future state prediction that allows you to think about, here's if this is the way my life is trending, then what choices can I make today to either influence the continuation of that trend or influence the dissolution of that trend so that it goes in the direction that you'd like it to go? I thought the same thing, Deanna. Deanna's saying it's hard to read without getting feedback from people during the reading. Um, Feedback comes in so many different ways, so many different ways. Sometimes feedback is silence. Sometimes feedback is stone face. Sometimes feedback is engagement verbally or non-verbally. Uh, I've learned that shutdown of what I think is valid feedback, hey, Kelly Kitty Cat, may actually be the way that person needs to give me feedback. And I need to pay attention to how they're sharing because I just may not be attuned to how they give nonverbal feedback, which is to shut down. So a friend of mine I was doing a reading for, and he shut down, and I was like, shit. Am I way off base here? Because he's normally a very verbal, communicative person, and very engaged, and had been throughout most of the reading, and then he shut down. And he told me later, because I said, "Were you okay during this point? Do you have questions about it for me?" Hey, Tamara. And he said, "Actually, you got so close to a really raw nerve there that I had to protect myself because it was too intense for me, and that's why I shut down." Like, oh, got it. So there are different cues, um, and I need to be open. I need to be more open to that instead of putting my sentiment on what their reaction is. That was a good lesson for me. Because what I wasn't in a predictive state with him at the point I was actually reading about where he truly was right then and there. Oh, thanks, Deanna. And it was raw. It was too raw. And it wasn't that I delivered something in a way that was uncomfortable. It was just he wasn't anticipating hearing it, so it was a shock. Uh, so so first, predictive, there's those type of spreads that can be predictive, that are meant to be predictive, so that you can help make your best choices when you're getting a reading with me. I think predictive tends to be in that state of, at least for people who haven't had a reading or have expectations about what readings are. I think predictive then becomes, well, tell me my future, tell me what's going to happen, not in a state so that you can control your future, but in the state of, I want to know what's coming so that I can prove that what you said is right or wrong. Um, and it's not the people who are here to challenge the reading. It's the people who have seen a lot of TV and movies and think that's what tarot is about. Um, that's what your last reading did for you. Can you explain more, Kelly? Tell me more. So I think that prediction is in the definition between the client and the reader. Is prediction what you are they predicting what you want to know so that you can look out for it and see if it happens and prove it? Or are they predicting what could be so that you can take control and say, okay, yes, I want that to happen, and I'm going to actively work to ensure that that outcome is a part of my life, or I'm going to actively work against that outcome because I don't want it. And that's the kind of prediction that I like to be a part of, because now I'm giving you the tools you need, or I can give you the tools you need to either support or remove that outcome from your life. The a spread like the year ahead helps us do that together. Thank you, Deanna. Helps us do that together. The other thing I think about is I don't necessarily think of myself as predictive because I'm in that intuitive space that gives us insight into today and where you'd like to be. He read me cold without a question and nailed that I was having troubles financially, and we just sold our house, so money is coming. Got it. Yeah, the cold reading thing is fascinating. So I love that style. Uh, I don't love to use that style. I'm fascinated by that style. I think it's a really interesting style. So for people who are cold reading that aren't getting information from the client ahead of time, they're just laying down cards and talking to the client about where they are and where they've been. I think that's an interesting way to work. I don't like to work that way because for me, I'm using your time to predict something that you already know. And you've already experienced it, you've already lived through it, you're already going through it, and you're paying for my time to tell you something you already know. So I'm fascinated by it because I think it's cool, and then it can go further, but I feel like I've wasted 15 minutes of your time telling you things you already know. So I'd prefer, like, ahead of the reading, the way I like to work is to tell me everything you've already worked on. Tell me all the shit you already know. Tell me all the stuff you've already been a part of, and then give me your question that is where you're stuck, so I can take you beyond all of that. I can take you further, and I can help you resolve this problem and give you the tools you need to move past it and be successful. You know, sometimes I get great info from spirit during the reading, but it doesn't happen consistently. I agree. Me too. I'll get messages about shit that I didn't even expect, and we talk about it as it comes through in the cards and the messages that are coming through, and those are those moments where I get into that intuitive space where it can become predictive, or it can become, here's the message you need that's coming through from either the source or from someone who's passed that needs to get a message to you about something going on in your life. Hey, Tony. So, yes, I agree. It's entirely possible to have amazing cold readings. Hey, Fibro, but they can be amazing because they tell you something you already know about yourself, and that's part of the confirmation in the readings that I do. Like, there'll be these moments where I'll say something. Like, I was reading for a gentleman, and I said, I I think some of you guys may have been here. I was like, "Do you have papillons?" And he said, "Yes, I have two." And I was like, so there was this card that doesn't have papillon in it, and it looked like there were these little papillons in the card. And that's a confirmation. It's I wasn't doing a cold reading, but it was a confirmation of something that we hadn't talked about. So he knew I was talking to him about the events in his life, and I knew I was connected into him in a special way. So predictive, sure, in a way that I predicted this man had papillons. Not that he was going to have them, but he did. Um, Predictive, yes, in a way that I've suggested. Here's where you remember it? Here's where you're headed. This is the outcome of the choices that you're making. I am predicting this is the way it's going to turn out. And I've received feedback on those predictions saying, yes, what you told me was going to happen based on my choices occurred. For example, Purple OC. and I had talked about he was struggling in the job that he was in the role that he had, and he was trying to move into this other role, and he had some reservations about the people. Hey, Trudy, and he had some reservations about the role itself, and there were two different options available to him, I think, and I remember one very acutely, and we talked a lot about that role and what would happen if he went for it, and he wanted it. So if he goes for it, how should he go about it, and what was the best way to be successful in getting it? And if he got there, what should he look out for, and how can he make the role successful? So we talked about all of that and what the outcome looks like and how it could be and what he should do. And now he's in that role. He got the role. He's happy about it. He's successful, and he's feeling his oats there. He likes it. Um, but without that reading about the outcomes of how it would be and what he needed to do to get there, he would have been on his own without the support of uh, the tarot reading and the coaching that I was able to provide along the way. So he could have very well done that on his own, but maybe he wouldn't have. We don't know because he chose to utilize my services to help get him there. Hey, Rosita, and that's the kind of predictive stuff that I like to do. Here's an outcome. Do you want to get there? Yes. Okay, let's talk about how. Here's an outcome. Do you want to get there? Fuck no. All right, let's talk about how to avoid it and what another option might be. Hey, Bernadette. So, so yeah, I wouldn't say that my readings tend to be predictive, but they are predictive with a purpose. Especially if you know what it is you're trying to achieve and are looking for ways to get there. And even more so when you're at a point of I've tried and I've tried and I've tried these things and I don't know what to do next. Help me figure out what the outcomes are and how do I get to that state. So it is. I think it is true to say that I have accurate predictions, but I think it is more true to say that I have accuracy in getting you to the outcome you choose based on the predictive nature of the reading, um, based on the information that you're sharing and the connection that we have. All of that. Deanna, I am extremely accurate. Thank you. Um, Thank you for saying that. There are moments where I surprise myself. Trudy, I agree, Seth. You also gave me great advice on how to rally my family. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. How's that going? Thank you for all of those hearts. YouTube is quiet today. Sometimes, I mean, there was like one person who came into YouTube. So I'm gonna stick with you guys, Periscope. So YouTube, thanks for being here. I hope this is helpful. If it was, make sure you subscribe so we can keep track of each other. I'd love to follow up with you and hear more about you. Tell me what you think in the comments below.